Now coming to the structure and functions of each and every part of the cell, we need to know the diagram. Okay, let's draw it. So now first we'll learn to draw the cell. There are basically two types of cell, a plant cell and an animal cell. We learn to draw both side by side, and as I'm drawing the cells, you'll be able to learn the structure and function of the parts of the cell. You will also be able to distinguish or state the differences between a plant cell and an animal cell. So the plant cell has a regular shape. So to draw it, first draw a rectangle, then draw a double line all around, leaving the corners. Fine. Now you extend the corners. It is because these are the extension for the next cell, for the adjacent cell. Okay. Fine. Now for an animal cell has an irregular shape. So let's take a oval shape for an animal cell. Okay. The plant cell. What is this? These are the outer coverings of the cell. So you see I have drawn two lines here and a single line here. So it is two lines because plant has an extra covering called cell wall made up of cellulose, which is an insoluble substance. Fine. So the outer wall is cell wall, which is missing in animal cell. It is not there. Made up of cellulose. The next is the cell membrane. The cell wall is made up of cellulose and it is a permeable membrane. It is permeable. What do you mean by permeable? Permeable are membranes which allows any size of substances to pass through it. Okay, so it is a permeable membrane. Cell wall do not hamper or hinder anything to enter the cell or leave the cell. But cell membrane, which is present both in plant cell as well as in animal cell, is a selectively permeable membrane. That is, it allows only some substances to enter or leave the cell. Fine. Now coming to nucleus. Nucleus is a very important organelle of a cell because it carries the hereditary characteristics. Okay, the parent is similar to its offspring because of the chemicals that are there in the nucleus. So nucleus has a double membrane. So the double membrane of nucleus is called nuclear membrane. Nuclear membrane. There is a rounded structure, maybe one or more than one at times. So, but it is fixed for organisms. So this rounded structure, it helps in the synthesis of protein along with another structure called ribosomes. We'll draw it as we are completing. So it helps in the synthesis of protein and has RNA in it. Okay. So it is called, the name is Nucleus. Same for both. Nuclear membrane and the rounded structure Nucleus. Okay. Now apart from this, there are some thread-like structures in the nucleus. These are the basic structures which during cell division forms chromosomes. The chromosomes in turn is made up of hereditary units called genes. Now the genes is made of a chemical called DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. So the chromatin fibers in the nucleus is important for carrying the hereditary characteristics. So it becomes short and thick during cell division. There are two types of cell division. You learn later. Mitosis and meiosis. In both the types of cell division, chromatin fibers plays a part. Okay. So chromatin fibers become thick and short to form chromosomes. So the number of chromosomes is fixed for every organism. Fine. But the number of chromosomes for a human being, it is 46. It is in a pair, 23 pairs and total 46 chromosomes. But the number of chromosomes actually does not decide the organism. It is the type of gene with which the organism is made up of, that is the DNA, with which the genes are made up of, which composes the chromosomes. That decides the organism. So therefore, you must have heard about DNA fingerprinting. Okay, so the DNA, what happens? The DNA has some empty space also. So these empty spaces are different for different people. So therefore, as we have fingerprints, different mark will come when we give our prints. So similarly, the DNA will also give a different print. So therefore, by that we can also decide the parental, characteristics or parent of a offspring by matching the DNAs. Fine. And what is DNA? DNA is a chemical with which genes are made. What is genes? Genes are hereditary units that forms chromosomes. What are chromosomes? Chromosomes are formed when the cell divides. The chromatin fibers become short and thick to form chromosomes. They are the carrier of hereditary units called genes. Okay. Now this nucleus has a jelly-like substance which is called nucleoplasm. Nucleoplasm. This is chromatin fibers for both. So what do you see? The nucleus is same in both plant cell as well as animal cell. The function also is same. It is basically the control center of the cell. Okay. Only what you see, the position is different. That I'll talk after after I finish a particular part. Now the space between the cell membrane and the nucleus is filled by a jelly-like substance called cytoplasm. So this is cytoplasm. It is here that all the cellular activities take place. Why? Because why does all the cellular activity take place in the cytoplasm? Because you'll see now these smaller cellular parts, the minute cellular parts called organelles, are actually placed in the cytoplasm, which we will be learning one by one. Okay. The cytoplasm and the nucleus together forms the protoplasm, which is the living substance of a organism, of an organism. Okay, so cytoplasm and the nucleus forms the protoplasm, the living substance or the basis of life. Fine. Now, what are the organelles placed in a plant cell? What are the organelles found in animal cell? There are a few differences. Fine. Starting with the most prominent organelle present in a plant cell is a vacuole. Vacuole is an empty space with a fluid inside it, watery substance called cell sap. It has water as well as some minerals dissolved in it. Find the cell sap, which is very prominent in a plant cell. It is absent in an animal cell or maybe temporary. Fine. So let's draw the vacuole. Vacuole is quite large in a plant cell. So it occupies the maximum part of the plant cell. Therefore, the nucleus is shifted to a side in a plant cell, whereas the nucleus is placed in the center in the animal cell. So what did we draw now? Vacuole, inside which is the cell sap. Inside the vacuole is the cell sap. The outer covering or the outer layer, the covering or the outline of this vacuole is called tonoplast. It is prominent in plant cells. So here we get one difference, another difference. First we said regular, not regular. This is vacuole present, vacuole is absent. Okay, now coming to another organelle, that is called mitochondria. So mitochondria are a double layered ribbon shaped or cylindrical, not ribbon shaped, cylindrical organelle. This is the site of respiration. The respiration or the oxidation of food actually occurs in the mitochondria, and due to the oxidation, energy is produced in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Okay, so let's draw the mitochondria. It is a double layered organelle. The internal layer, inner layer, forms teeth-like structures called cristae. The internal layers form teeth-like structures called the cristae. And what is the function of mitochondria? The function of mitochondria is producing energy, and therefore it is also called the powerhouse of the cell, mitochondria. This is present in both plant as well as animal cell. The powerhouse of the cell. Why is it called powerhouse? Because in our life, powerhouse is a supplier of electricity, isn't it? So here the powerhouse, the mitochondria, is the supplier of energy in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, to the cells for various activities. Fine. Now there are plastids, an organelle called plastids. These are basically, again, double membraned organelle. It imparts color to the cell. Fine. So this is present only in plant cell. It is not present in animal cell. Now the plastids present in plant cell, they may be of three types. Plastids are of three types: chromoplast, chloroplast and leucoplast. Chromoplast, chloroplast and leucoplast. Chloroplast are the plastids which contain chlorophyll and gives green color to the cell. So wherever you see green, whichever part of the plant, it actually has chloroplast in it, which contains chlorophyll. Fine. Chromoplast gives color to the cell. The chromoplast may impart yellow, red or orange color. There can be two different types of chromoplast, xanthophyll and carotene. Carotene giving orange color like you see in carrots. Okay, and xanthophyll gives the yellow color like you see the skin of the mango. Now the purple or blue color that you see, they are not because of the chromoplast. It is because of a pigment or chemical present in the cell anthisome. Okay. So the plastid, let us label it. This is a plastid, chloroplast. We are drawing a generalized plant cell and a generalized animal cell. If you study various kinds of animals, there may be some differences. Okay, so this is just a general cell, the parts that we know. It is for study of the cells, plant cell and animal cell. Which is, now this plastid is absent in animal cell. Another difference we can write. Fine. So now there are some channels, tubular structures or channels in the cell which passes any material, that substance that needs to be passed from the nucleus up to the cell membrane. So they are called endoplasmic reticulum. Now this endoplasmic reticulum can be smooth or it can be rough. Another organelle called ribosomes, which helps in protein synthesis. If they are present attached to the endoplasmic reticulum, then the endoplasmic reticulum is said to be rough endoplasmic reticulum. If not, then it is smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, let's draw it. This is present in both plant cell as well as animal cell. So it is right up to the cell membrane. These are tubular structures which help in transportation of any substance. Okay. Now these tubular structures, when they have ribosomes attached on them, ribosomes help in protein synthesis. Then they are called rough endoplasmic reticulum. So this is rough endoplasmic reticulum. And what are these dots that makes it rough? It is ribosomes. It is also present in plant cell. May also have ribosomes. Okay. Now next, another organelle which is present in both plant and animal cells are Golgi bodies. Now these Golgi bodies are a part of endoplasmic reticulum. It also has tubular structures and vesicles with it, and it helps in secretion of some secretions. Okay, so they are just tubular structures. Helps in, it is normally close to the nucleus. Golgi bodies. Another structure which is very important for animal cells, that is centrosomes and centrioles. The centrosome and centrioles are present only in animal cell and they start the cell division. Okay, and thus they are around, the centrosome is around 2 centrioles, just like a star. Fine, the centrosomes, the centrioles are at right angles to each other. around which are the centrioles. So this is centrosome and centrioles present like a star shape, okay, that initiates cell division. Another very peculiar organelle which is present in animal cell is lysosome. They are just circular bodies, fine, which has a solution in it. Now these are called suicide bags. Why do we call it a suicide bag? Because it has the ability to dissolve the damaged cell, the parts of the damaged cell. If the cell gets damaged, it will dissolve the cell to which it belongs to. So it is called a suicide bag. It also can destroy the foreign particles entering the cell. So lysosomes are called suicide bags. Okay, hopefully I was able to make you understand this. So now that we know the generalized, the parts and the generalized structure of a plant cell and an animal cell, we can very conveniently, note the differences on our own. So let's talk about the cell wall first, which is present in the plant cell and it is absent in animal cell. Cell wall is made up of cellulose present in plant cell but absent in animal cell. Vacuoles are much prominent and one or more present in plant cells. It may be small or temporary in an animal cell. Okay, these, and the third one, the centrosome and centriole is present in animal cell. It is absent in plant cell. These are the most prominent differences that you can write about in the differences regarding the differences between plant cell and animal cell. Rest, the cytoplasm is more little denser in plant cell, little less denser in animal cell. Plant cell are much little bigger in size than animal cell. These are quantitative differences. Fine. So now talking about, now that we know that everything about the cell, now let us discuss that what is the importance of cell in any organism. Because every activity takes place in a cell. If you talk about repair, if you have an injury, the cells are repaired by producing new cells, replacing the old cells. Growth is there. Okay, fertilization occurs, that is, the single cells, the male and the female, they fuse to form a new cell called zygote, which multiplies and gives rise to new organisms. If you talk about respiration, the gaseous exchange is also occurring in the cell. If you talk about circulation, so it is the cell that carries the oxygen. Okay, the RBCs carry the oxygen and supply to the parts where it is required. Now, after learning about plant cell and animal cell, there are also two types of cells based on the presence of the organelles which are membrane bound. So, the organelles which are membrane bound, like the nucleus, if it is present along with the membrane, if the nuclear membrane is present, then it is supposed to be a eukaryotic cells. So whatever we have drawn are all eukaryotic cell. But in very primitive or very lower organisms, so like in bacteria, the cell does not have any membrane bound cell organelle. So the nuclear material also there is scattered in the cell. It is not bound with nuclear membrane. So such cells are called prokaryotic cell. So the difference between prokaryotic and eukaryotic cell is membrane bound organelles are absent in prokaryotic cell. The nuclear material therefore is scattered in the cell, whereas eukaryotic cell have membrane bound cell organelles. The nucleus is also bounded by nuclear membrane. Now after you go through this video, read the book if you have the book with you, and please see that you do these diagrams. Please practice these diagrams, make them in your notebook, as well as practices as many times as you can. Now whatever cell organelles are here mentioned, please make a list of it. Write its structure, write its function in separate columns, draw it separately, and make this table ready for quick learning. So what you are going to do, draw the diagram, make the table of all the cell organelles, okay, the name, then comes its structure, then comes its function and the diagram. Fine, it will be very easy for you to learn, and you'll also be able to clear your concepts well and find out where your doubt lies. Now for the smaller things, like the discoveries that we talked about in the initial stage, see that you learn the names of the scientists, the cell theory, write down the what cell theory states. For the smallest, the shapes and size of the cells, the examples, please make a table again. For the shapes of the different shapes of cells, make it according to the shape, write the example, and how does that shape help that particular cell. Okay, so if the shape of the nerve cell is long, then how does the length of this help the nerve cell? It helps it to carry messages. Okay, in this way you will make the table of different shapes of cells too. Difference between eukaryotic and prokaryotic cells is very important. So see that you learn them. Difference between plant cell and animal cell is also very important. See that you make the table in your notebook also, and you learn about